Hello folks and welcome to Sound Codex. In this introduction course, I'm going to talk to you about Bespoke Synth. We'll see what it is, how it works, and how can we make music and sound with it. This video is made for beginners, but if you're an intermediate and you already know a little bit about Bespoke, I think this video will be a good resource for you as well. First, what is Bespoke Synth? If you're a beginner, you probably have never heard about it. Bespoke is a virtual modular synthesizer with DAW capabilities. And when I talk about DAW capabilities, I'm telling you that you can create your own music track with many different layers, with many synthesizers, with many different sounds, with sequencers. You can make live performances, or you can even mix a song with it. Of course, it's not made for mixing, but you can do it as well and with good results. It is based on modules that can be connected using patch cables, virtual patch cables. So if you're familiar with Max MSP or Pure Data, you already know what we are talking about. The software was developed by Ryan Chalinoir starting from 2011. I don't know if I pronounced your surname in the right way. If so, sorry, English is not my native language. Here I leave you the official website, the GitHub repository, and Ryan's Twitter account. I almost forgot to say that all this is for free, so Ryan made it for free. You can easily download it from its official website. Every time I try to learn a new software, the first thing I want to know is how to move around the environment. So it's pretty simple here. You can use a standard left mouse click to select an area or modules or perform these standard actions you do in every software. You can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out, and by holding the right mouse click, you can move your mouse around to pan the view. And you can do the same thing using spacebar, so spacebar plus your mouse movement to pan around the canvas. If for any reason you get lost, I'm thinking about when you create a very large scale project, you can open the console with tilde. On Mac, it's option 5. You open up the console, you type in home, you press enter. As you can see in this image, the software will bring you to the main view. On laptop, you can move around by holding spacebar and moving just one finger on the trackpad. And if you hold spacebar and move two fingers up and down, you can zoom in and out. So save these shortcuts if you're a laptop user. Every module has its own color, and this is super useful to understand the overall workflow and how to build your project. So we start with instruments. They have this reddish pink. They are a generic category, but they create notes and they manage notes. You can think of them as musical gears like a sequencer or a keyboard and stuff like that. Then we have note effects with this orange or dark yellow. These modules provide all functionalities related to musical notes. So you can set pitches, you can set dynamic, portamento, MIDI, chords, and so on. Then in green, we have synthesizers. They provide high-level synthesis modules. And when I talk about high-level, I'm referring to objects that perform complex tasks like a granular synthesizer that chops an audio file in small pieces and reassemble them to create a different sound. Then we have pulses. If you come from Pure Data or Max MSP, pulses are bangs. And within Bespoke, you can handle single, multiple, and sequential impulses in a very simple and straightforward way. A pulse can be used to trigger a process, to start a process. You can think of them as buttons that can activate or deactivate things. Then we have audio effects. This is pretty simple. As it says, we talk about audio effects. Here are handled like audio effects chain, like an audio effect chain, where you have a container where you can import and add different effects, and you can select an order. So you can decide which one goes first and so on. It's like a pedal board for guitars. Then we have modulators. These are used to generate control signals like envelopes, curves. You can set parameters, values. They are also used to convert values like I want to convert a note, a MIDI note, to its relative frequency, or I want to retrieve the speed from a pitch variation and all stuff like that. Finally, we have other, which contains other generic modules. They are mainly utilities. Talking about gray modules, the first modules that you see when you open Bespoke is a transport and a scale module. We can move inside Bespoke. This is the view. Here on the top right corner, we have transport and scale. As we can read here, every time you open the program, it will initialize a new canvas with random parameter, so with a random tempo and a random scale. For more detail about this module, I invite you to take a look and read the user documents that you can find at this link. There is a detailed description for every single module. Moving forward, we can talk about an additional section that is loaded when you open up the program, and it's the output stage. As you can see, we have a main volume for the final output. The signal is then splitted into left and right channel. This is where the digital sampled and quantized signal is converted into an analog signal that we can hear throughout our speakers. Finally, we can understand how to create a module, and we can do so in two ways. The first one is to simply drag and drop a module from the top toolbar. So here I select instruments. I want to create a keyboard display. I select it and I place it on top of the canvas, or I can use its initial letter. So inside the canvas on a blank space, I type the initial letter of a module if I know its name, and I select it with a simple mouse click. So here I know that keyboard display starts with a K, so I press K, and here I can select keyboard display. To delete a module, you simply select it and press backspace. Now that you added your first module, we can perform different actions. So we can turn the module on and off with a click on its top left circle. It will enable and disable it. You can minimize it clicking on top of its title bar, and you can inspect its configuration setting by clicking on this triangle on the top right corner. Every time you inspect its configuration settings, you'll find different parameters specific for the object we are using. The standard ones are name and target. But if we create a different modules like a carplus strong, we can see that here we have completely different values. Now it's time to create your first connection. So if you want to perform a connection, you simply need to select the output pin and drag this cable on top of your target modules. So we can create a target module like a signal generator. We can drag out from the keyboard and we place this cable on top of it. We release, and here we have our first link. We can do the same thing from the output pin of signal generator and send it to the gain stage. If you want to perform a double or multiple connection, you simply need to press Shift when you're on top of the output pin. As you can see, let me zoom in. Here you'll visualize this black cross. Now you can drag out and send a copy of a cable to a different module. Pin color, it's super useful to understand the data flow and how to structure your project. So each pin has a unique color depending on what type of data it sends out. The output of keyboard display is a note. So when we connect the keyboard to a signal generator, you can easily understand then we are going to set its frequency. Once we set the frequency inside the signal generator, we can take its audio output and send it to, like in this example, in this image, to the gain stage. There are allowed wirings and wirings that you cannot make. On top of each module, there are small colored bars that indicate the type of data that specific object can receive. So in this example, the signal generator can receive impulses and notes, while a sampler can receive notes and audio streams only. Now that we know how to create and connect modules, the next step is to adjust its parameters. So we can do so in 3 main ways. The first one is the quick way. So you select a slider, click on it, and you move it back and forth. So here, like frequency, we click on it and we can move back and forth the frequency, release it, and it will stay at that specific value. Then we have a more precise way to do so. We can press Shift, hold Shift, and move the slider back and forth. So I press Shift, and here you can see that I'm moving the frequency with more precision. And finally, you can enter a specific value by typing the numbers inside the number box. You simply need to move over the number box, in my example frequency, and you type the frequency you want as an input, and finally you press enter. And here we have our selected frequency. There are situations where you want to set a minimum and maximum value, and the default ones are not good for your performance or for your needs. So to set a minimum and maximum value, you can hold Command or Control if you're a Windows user. And when you're over a number box, click on the desired box. The leftmost is the minimum value, while the rightmost is its maximum value. And you simply type the number and press enter. So in this example, we can press Command. We have the frequency that goes from 1 to 4000. I want to set its minimum value to 100, and I press enter. So now when I move, let me zoom in so you can easily see what I'm doing. So if I move the red marker all the way to the left, we can see that the minimum frequency is now set to 100. You can increase or decrease a value by using the arrow up and down. When your mouse is over on top of a parameter, if you do so, it will increase or decrease by 1. But if you hold Shift, it will modify that value by 0.1. If you want to reset a value, you simply need to press backspace. As always, make sure that the value you want to set it's highlighted, so your mouse should be on top of it, like in my example here. If I press backspace, I can see that the frequency is set to its default value of 220 Hz. A super cool feature, and I really love the way how it is implemented, it's the interpolation. So you can hold Alt or Option when inside a number box, and you will visualize this smooth voice. You can set it from 0 to 1. So 0 is no interpolation, 1 it's maximum interpolation. Then you can release your Alt or Option key, and a yellow dot like this will appear inside the number box. Now, when you move the slider back and forth, you'll move the dot, which is the target value, and the red marker will take a longer or shorter time to reach that yellow dot, depending on the smooth amount. We can test it. So here I press Option. I can set the smooth amount to 0.5. I release my Option key. Now here it's barely visible. Let me turn on the synth. When I move the marker, I move first the dot, which is the target, and the red marker follow along. Because Bespoke Synth it's made mainly for live performances, mapping your own external controller is a great plus. And you can do so in a super easy way within this software. You simply need to connect your USB or MIDI controller to your computer. The software may be already open, it doesn't matter. Your external controller will still be detected, which is a huge plus. Then you add a MIDI controller module and you open its drop-down menu on top and select your device. So let's try to do it. I move the mouse on top of the canvas. I press M for MIDI, here MIDI controller. I select my Launch Control XL. Step 3, we need to check the bind option, and now we can place the cursor over the desired setting we want to bind to the controller. And while holding shift we press or move the slider we want to associate. So let me create an envelope. So envelope, here we have it. Now I press bind. I move my cursor on top of the envelope on and off. I press shift and I want to associate this button to the on and off. As you can see, my MIDI button is colored, and here we can see that it's turning on and off the envelope. We can do the same thing for a slider, so I press shift with my mouse over the low value and I can move slider. This is everything you need to know for a quick and easy connection, but if you're interested in retrieving more informations, you can follow step 4 and 5. So we can select layout mode from the MIDI controller, and you'll see that this large view will show you the controller configuration. At the time I was writing this presentation, I was using a Launchpad Mini. If we open the layout right now that I'm using a launch control, you see that we have buttons, sliders, so the configuration is different. In any case, you see this semi-transparent light gray connection that goes from my MIDI controller to the desired value. If you click on the virtual control, this one highlighted, a side window will show you extra information such as the target, which you can visualize with the gray connection as well. Here I press this button and I can see that it is on control 45, channel 1. It is linked to the envelope, to which parameter, enable, disabled, and it is of type toggle. So I can turn it on or I can turn it off. Different story for the control 80, which is connected to the low value of the envelope, and it is of type slider. Great, now it's finally time to make some noise, so we can start by creating a keyboard display. We can connect it to an envelope. So we drag out from its output pin, we send it to the envelope, and from here we can start talking about one of the most important modules, one of the most basic ones, which is envelope. So you have a low and high value, which are the low value on the x-axis and its highest value by default is normalized between 0 and 1. We have the length. So in this example, the envelope is a second long, 100 milliseconds. We can toggle the advanced mode. We can enlarge the view so we can work a little bit better. And I want to shape an envelope. So we can move the attack time a little bit. If you select a segment, you can move it down or up, so you can change the slope of that segment. So let's do something like this. And for the release, I want the inverse. Great. Now we need a signal generator. So I select S, signal generator. Now, one important thing to know when I create a modulator module is that when you select the output pin, all possible connections will be highlighted. In this example, I want to generate an envelope for amplitude, so I connect it to the volume. Here we have it. Now I can take the audio output of signal generator, send it to the gain stage, and we can have a listen. Now we want the pitch to change as well, so I want to take the keyboard output and send it to signal generator. This is a multiple connection from the keyboard, so I press Shift. Here you can see the black cross, and I can perform my connection. I want to change the octave of this keyboard, so I press the triangle on top, and I can set its root octave to 4 or 5, nope, 5. Apply. Great. Let's change the waveform, a more interesting one like the square wave. We can duplicate a module by pressing Option or Alt, select and duplicate. And I want the envelope to send its modulation to both signals. So here, once again, I can press Shift, but this time a different module will be created. So for notes, you simply press Shift and you can do a multiple connection. With modulators will be created a macro slider, which essentially takes an input value and creates copies that can be remapped. This is the start and the end value. If you don't touch anything, it will just create a simple copy of that signal. So I take this second output and I send it to the volume of my second signal generator. Now I can take the note out and send it to the signal generator. We can change its waveform like a saw wave. We can lower the octave. Let's do a bass synth. It's clipping because we are summing two signals that have a maximum value of 1. So we can lower the high value. Let's set it to 0.6. Much better. And I want a lower octave. Apply. Super cool. Now, instead of duplicating the same note, what if I want to create a second note that is an octave below the first one? I can do so. Note effects, note octaver. This object transposes the note octaves above and below the one we receive. So we can take the note we send to the signal generator 2, we send it to note octaver, we bring it down by 1 octave, and we resend it to our signal generator. Let's reapply a square wave with a different phase and a little bit of detune. The sound is pretty cool, but it needs more variation. So, what if I want to apply an LFO to the pulse width modulation? We can search for LFO, and here we have it. Or a quicker way is to right-click on top of the parameter you want to modulate, in my case, the pulse width. And here you'll see a small window showing you all parameters for an LFO. If you want, you can pin it so you have always besides your module. Here we can set a speed. So let's say 1N, which is 1 Hertz. We can set a low value of 0.1, a high value 0.8, something like that. Well, no spread, no bias. Okay, much better. Now, if I want to set a very specific value, like here we have a length, which is of 100 milliseconds. And with this drop-down menu, we can select multiplications for the frequency. But what if I want a very specific value, like 0.79? I can use a value setter. So I press V, and here we have it. We send it to the frequency, and here I can set 0.79. Set. I want the pulse width modulation to affect the first signal generator as well, so shift, and I drag its values on top of it. The macro slider creates a little bit of chaos, but you'll get used to it. If you want, you can remap it. So now it's time to add audio effects. So we can apply a ring modulation. As you can see, it creates modulations to audio streams. So it's a blue module. We take the signal generator, we send both of them to the ring modulator, and we can send the ring modulator to an effect like a reverb, which is called free verb. Here we have it. As I told you during the presentation, the effect chain, you can think of it as a sequence of modules, effect modules. We can add an effect like a delay, and here inside we see this internal connection. You can delete the effect with this arrow, or you can, and you can select an order using this button here. Now I adjust few values, wet only with a little bit of dry. That was all for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if so, I invite you to leave a like and subscribe to support my channel. If you want, drop a line in the comment section down below and let me know what you think about Bespoke. To me, this synth is truly impressive. It produces really high quality audio signals. It's super versatile, it's easy to use, and it's free. I mean, it's a very unique software that you can find online. So huge shout out to his developer, Ryan, who made an amazing job. As I said, let me know in the comment sections I always read your comments, so thank you guys for your support. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.